So this morning is part 5, and it is the final part of this series, #selfie, based on the work of Craig Groeschel, where we've been wrestling with the question, how do we follow Jesus in a selfie-centered world? And today, as we wrap up this series, I want us to think about the issue of rest. How do we find rest for our minds and for our souls? Because so many of us are just absolutely tethered to these little devices. So how do we find rest? And I want to start today with a few lines from a classic movie about rest and spirituality, Napoleon Dynamite. When Kip, at the end of the film, sang to LaFonda, his soulmate, at the apex of their wedding ceremony. And so I will not try to sing these words. You can relax. I will simply read them with passion. Why do you love me? Why do you need me? Always and forever. We met in a chat room. Now our love can fully bloom. Sure, the World Wide Web is great, but you make me salivate. Yes, I love technology, but not as much as you see, but still, I love technology. Always and forever. That's what I'm talking about. That's what we're talking about. Technology. We love technology, and we should. It's an incredible tool, and I'll say what I have said every single week of this. Technology is fantastic. Yes, I love technology. In fact, this last Wednesday night, I had this how cool is technology moment. I was at Kate's, my daughter's basketball game, high school basketball game at Kamiak High School. And my neighbor was there, and she slid over and sat next to me for a second. And she lives across the street from us. She just happens to be a big girls basketball fan. She was a great player back in her day. She actually played here at Linwood and set the three-point record. So anyway, this lady lives across the street from us, and we've been neighbors for maybe 8 years or so, and they don't go to Brookview or any church that I know of, but she slid over next to me at the game and said, "Hey, I wanted to tell you, I'm really loving your series on social media." And I was like, what? And so she continued. She's like, "Yeah, I'm really loving your series on social media. I just got this new treadmill, and your sermons are like the perfect length for me while I'm on the treadmill." And I was like, what is happening? And she says, "Leah Coates is a friend of mine on Facebook. I've known her since high school, and I saw her link to this series, and I've been watching, and it's been awesome." And she went on to tell me like some of the things that she liked in particular, and she named off all this stuff, and I was like, tell me more. Tell me more of the things that you liked that I said. Like, I got lots of time. And so get this, my neighbor, who doesn't go to Brookview, who I haven't really even talked to in a few months, is listening to this series because of Facebook. So I just want to give her a shout out, and I just want to say, Lacey, you're the best neighbor ever. We love you and your whole family. Thanks for watching. Here's a shout out to you. So social media is, as we all know, it's a great tool, and it can be used for so much good, like the sharing of my sermons. Yes, I love technology. At the same time, I think we're also aware that if we're not careful, we can become addicted to it. Like we can actually become enslaved to it, okay? A pastor in Canada, Kerry Newhoff, said it like this. He said, like money, social media is a great servant, but a terrible master. And it kind of reminds me of what the Apostle Paul said when he was talking to the Corinthians. And the Christians in Corinth were living in this really wild culture. Corinth was a large port city with tons of culture. And so they were exposed in their culture to everything you can possibly imagine. Okay, it was a lot like Seattle, except without the Seahawks. So Paul has been explaining to them that in Christ, we now have great freedom, that we're not bound by a bunch of legalistic rules, that our faith isn't built on rule following, but on loving and serving the one that we follow. And in serving him, he insists we have tremendous freedom. But at the same time, he says, we have to be very, very careful. So here's what he says. He says, in quoting them, he's like paraphrasing back to them what they've been saying. He says, I have the right to do anything, you say. And he's like, yes. Okay, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything. Well, yes. But I will not be mastered by anything. So Paul is saying, yes, in Christ we have this amazing freedom, but in order for us to live fully in that freedom, we need to watch out that we don't get addicted to things, that we aren't under the power and control of anything except for Christ, that we aren't mastered by anything in this world. So I don't want to be mastered by an addiction to food. I don't want to be mastered by an addiction to drugs or alcohol. I don't want to be mastered by like inappropriate stuff online. And I definitely, okay, do not want to be mastered by this. And yet, if I'm honest, if I'm really honest, so many times I am mastered by this. And a lot of people are. A lot of people are. And in just a few years, you look at our culture and you go, wow, we have become so dependent on this. It goes everywhere with us. We're looking at it nonstop. Now, maybe some of you are thinking, okay, wait a minute. Really? Like, wait a minute. What do you mean we're addicted? Can I just say, like, really? You don't see it? Really? Okay, let me show you what I'm talking about. This is an ad from Windows. Check this out.
Really?
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 It's time for a phone to save us from our phones. New Windows Phone, designed to get you in and out and back to life.
So today's message is sponsored by the new Windows Phone. Because if you have a Windows Phone, you will immediately be free of any bondage to your phone. Really? Yeah. Nice, John. Look, we're all aware, I think, that this is an issue in our culture. And it's getting more and more and more out of control all the time. And the question, though, really for today is this an issue for you? And it's interesting because most people say, yeah, this is a big problem in society, okay, but not for me. And I found this interesting. Jeff Satterthwaite sent me a link. An app developer named Kevin Hollish, after realizing how much his digital addictions were affecting his real-life relationships, created an iTunes app called Moment. And it's designed to promote a healthier balance between our real lives and those lived through these tiny little screens on our digital devices. And so the Moment app helps you track how much you use your phone each day. It helps you set daily limits on its usage. And it even offers these occasional nudges when you're starting to approach those limits. Little, hey, better pay attention. So according to Holish, the creator of the app, he says, the overall goal with Moment is not about getting you to put your phone down forever and go live in the woods. It's about creating a balance in our lives. And I saw a picture of him. He looks like kind of a hipster, techie sort of dude. Obviously would be if he's an app developer. But he says, my main goal with Moment was to make me aware of how many minutes I'm burning on my phone each day, and it's helped my testers do that too. So a big part of what the app does is it helps you get a clear picture of how much time you're actually spending on your phone every day. And he goes on to explain, and I thought this was interesting. He says, as a tiny experiment, I asked people to guess what their daily usage was, and they were almost always at least 50% too low. And this is what's happening, right? People are becoming social media addicts, and the bigger problem is they have no idea. I can quit anytime I want, right? So how do you know if this is you? Like, if you're an addict? Well, I've created a very non-scientific diagnostic. And so let me give you the top 7 ways you know when you're addicted to social media. And if you say, why 7 ways? Because 7 is a biblical number. And I couldn't really think of 8. Okay, so here we go. Top 7 ways you know you're addicted to social media. Number 7, you plan your Throwback Thursdays weeks in advance. Number 6, your cat has its own Instagram page. Number 5, you look forward to going to the bathroom so you can get to level 7 of your favorite game. Listen, if your legs are falling asleep on the toilet, you have a problem. Number 4, you sleep with your phone like a teddy bear. Number 3, you've hit Facebook's maximum allowable 5,000 friends, but you only actually know 68 of them. Number 2, you change your Facebook profile more often than a 14-year-old girl. And number 1, you make the move on your spouse by asking hashtag, are you in the mood? Look, technology is a good thing. Too much of a good thing is not a good thing. And so this is the last week of this series, and I have to say, it's been wild. It's been fun for me. And this has been very different than anything we've ever done. And it's raised a lot of great discussions among you guys. Several of our life groups have decided, not all of them, but several of them have decided to use this message series as the main topic for discussion over the last several weeks. And so our Tuesday night group of young adults that Jen and I lead is one of those groups doing that. And we've had some just fantastic dialogues about this stuff. And then last week, our group got like crazy. We decided as a group, everybody put their hands in the middle, and we decided as a group to do a full-on 1-week fast from social media. Some of you are in shock. So from Tuesday night, January 27th, through Tuesday night, February 3rd, for 1 full week, it was an absolute fast from social media. Okay, now let me just say, these are people ranging in age from 18 to 25. You can imagine how hard this would be for them. And then there's like me and Jen. And we're like the parents. And then there's like John and Debbie DeLeo. And they're like the other parents. So we actually did this, okay, for a whole week. We avoided social media sites, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, all that stuff. And we also limited texting. So we basically said, try to use an actual phone call for everything that you can, unless it just absolutely doesn't make sense to do that. Now, we weren't like crazy legalistic about this thing, but these guys took it really, really seriously. And so at the end of the fast on Tuesday night last week, we debriefed the experience with them. And the stuff that came out during that discussion was just fascinating to me. Several people said, you know, when everyone around me would be on their phones, and I wouldn't be, I was painfully aware of how incessantly people use their phones. Like way more so aware. And people said, like, I felt like naked. Like without my phone, you know, sometimes I didn't know what to do. Like it was just totally awkward. And then one guy, in a moment of brutal honesty, said, I actually came to like a breaking point. He said, I was with a friend that just like kept checking his phone. And he said, I was at his house, and he just like kept checking his phone. And he said, and I felt so jealous and so awkward just sitting there doing nothing while he was on his phone, that I would just like grab my phone and be like, pretend to be doing something important. And he said, and really, this was awesome, and really, I just kept checking the time. The several people said, I can't believe how productive I was all week. One guy read a book. Now, normally he doesn't have time to read, but using the extra time he had that week, he actually read an entire book that week. And I think it was Cat in the Hat. I'm just kidding. It was like a real book, okay? And then another guy said that he like cleaned his house. He said that whenever he had nothing else to do, he was just fidgety. Like, so he got up and he would just start cleaning. And he said by the end of the week, it was like his house was cleaner than it's ever been. It was cleaner than when it was like brand new. It was just crazy. For some, it was kind of shocking. Like for one guy, he said there was a ton of anxiety, to be honest. He said he'd see the apps on his phone letting him know that all this stuff was happening, and it was just like, and he was just freaking out. Just all this angst. Other people in the group decided to not go through that and put themselves through that, so they removed their social media apps from their phone, okay? They didn't want to be tempted or feel the angst of seeing all the notifications. They didn't want to see all the stuff they were missing, okay? So I just find it interesting that people who took a very serious break, what they experienced. And some of you have seen the YouTube video of a day in the life of a girl who goes without her phone. It's over 46 million views. My guess is some of you have seen this. It's called I Forgot My Phone. Okay, check this out.
Driving with a box stuck under his car. And like, who knows how long he was driving. I saw him pull out of the parking lot and turn right, and the box was still stuck under his car. So who knows how long he was driving with that box under his car. I bet he got home, he pulled into his driveway.
Out in the sky. I'm not. Wow. You're like, if you it's not.
I don't think it's real. I don't think it's real.
I see the lineup for cars. Getting wasted. The Empire State Building is like really close to it, so it's a good.
And I did the best with what was in my hands.
So, I think that there's no doubt that in less than maybe 5 years, we've experienced a slight culture shift. Because we have at our fingertips this amazing technology, but too much of a good thing maybe isn't such a good thing. And so I just want to pause right here and ask you to ask yourself, am I willing to establish some boundaries on technology? Now, for some of you, you already do this. I mean, you've very intentionally thought through this, and you've put limits on what you do and when you do it, and you don't want to use overuse technology, and you don't want that to get in the way of other things that really matter to you. So you've thought about this, and that's good. It's really good. In Proverbs 13:16, the Bible says, wise people think before they act. In other words, wise people, they think ahead and they make a plan. They see dangers ahead and they make a plan before they get there. Okay, wise people think before they act. Fools don't, and even brag about their foolishness. Now, some of you have thought about this, and you're very much already working through this. But I would just say to even you this morning, even if that's you, even so, is your plan the best plan? Is it really working for you? Is it helping you to use technology without overusing it? Is it helping you stay focused on the things in your life that matter most? Because the truth is, we all need a plan. And not just any plan. We need a good plan. A plan that fits with our lifestyle, that fits with our context, a plan that enables us to fully reap the benefits of technology without becoming enslaved to it. And of course, the truth is, there's no one-size-fits-all plan that works for everybody. Okay, but to just have no plan at all, that's pretty foolish. And so I don't know what kind of plan you might make, what kind of boundaries that you might want to adopt, but let me just start throwing crazy stuff out there. Maybe you talk to your spouse, and you guys decide no phones when we're eating family meals. Okay, maybe you want to start there. Or maybe you put your hands in together, spouse and kids and the whole family, and you decide that whenever it is the family is hanging out together, maybe for certain periods of the vacation, maybe not the whole thing, but for certain times, maybe for family game night or when you all go out to Froyo or whatever it might be, you just say, we're going to have a phone-free experience. It's just going to be us, and that's going to be enough. Because, man, one of the most disruptive things to families connecting is just all the chirping and the beeping and the whistling and the knocking and the whatever weird other random noises your phone can make. Because one moment you're all talking together, right? Everybody's connecting. Somebody's sharing something fairly significant. The next moment, somebody has completely checked out. And of course, looking at our phones, I don't know if this happens to you. This is what I've observed, and this is how I feel deep in my heart. When other people, looking at our phones is contagious. When someone else at the table, I can be doing fine. I'm doing good. I'm focused, And then someone else at the table looks at their phone. What do I want to do? I have this burning, raging, seemingly irresistible desire that rises up in me, and I feel I have to look at my phone. Now, what am I looking for? I don't know. But someone else is looking at their phone, and I feel I should be looking at my phone. And so maybe you want to start with some boundaries on family time. Earlier, I made that reference to the Moment app for iPhones. Well, now it's spinned off and gotten more advanced, and there's now a family app. And I saw this, and I was this is hilarious to me. So check this out. Here's the family app for Moment, the Moment app.
Use Moment to track how much time you spend on your iPhone and your iPad. Set daily limits for yourself. Track your family too. When you want everyone to be screen-free, turn on family dinner time. After that, anyone who picks up their phone will hear a nasty sound until they put their phone down. Everyone will hear it, including your neighbor walking her dog outside. Beware though. Anyone can start family dinner time, even your kids, and the person that starts it is the only one that could turn it off. It takes an entire family to keep each other in the moment.
Is that nuts? That's nuts. And what's crazy to me is that as a society, as a family, we're at a point where those kinds of apps need to be created, or someone thinks they need to be created. And I can just envision some of you, okay, I won't say names, but I can envision some of you, some of your kids, loving this. Because, like, you know, you're like, kids, we need to be careful with our phones. And they're like, hello, you're the worst offender. So you're at dinner, and they've secretly turned on the family dinner time, and it's you that gets caught. And it's you that's, your phone is, all the thunder sound is kicking out so the neighbor's dogs can hear it. Okay, I'm not pushing this app. I haven't researched it. I don't know anything about it. I just thought it was interesting. I'm not pushing anything. I'm just saying we better think about doing something. And maybe for you, it would be what some of our like young adults did in our group. Maybe you decide, you know what, I'm going to remove some of those social media apps from my phone, like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever. So that, you know, instead of getting notifications all day long, maybe instead of being tempted to browse those sites 100 times a day, maybe you set aside like a designated social media time. You limit it to certain periods of the day, maybe a 20-minute block. Okay, some of you go, that would never do. Okay, maybe 2 of them, maybe 2 20-minute blocks. I don't know. Or maybe you just turn off the notifications. You know, you keep the app, but you turn off the notifications during certain times. In fact, how about this? Maybe you just put your phone away at certain times. Like if you're meeting with a friend for coffee. Like if you're studying for a test. Like if you're going on a hike. Or maybe you decide that you don't want to take your phone to bed. Some of you would say, but I could never do that. There are logistical things. I could never do that because I use my phone as an alarm. Really? You can't go buy an alarm? I mean, just think about it. Because like if you don't sleep well at night, like if you hear notifications going off at 2 o'clock in the morning, if you get up in the night to go to the bathroom and then you check your phone and then you're like scrolling Instagram or Pinterest at weird hours, and it gets you thinking about stuff and then you can't sleep, or if you're, if you're somebody who has issues with pornography and having your phone in bed with you is a contributor to that, maybe it would be best to put your phone to bed at night. Like, you can hug it if you want. You can tell it that you love it. You can read it a bedtime story so that it feels settled if you need to. And then you like put it on a charger in the other room, and like while you recharge, it recharges. Now, I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there. I'm not married to any of this stuff. I'm just throwing it out there, and I'm saying, you don't know, you know, you want to be proactive about this. Because you don't want to be mastered by anything. I mean, technology is a great servant, but it is a terrible master. And it's interesting because in our culture, we're aware of this, and so sometimes we all laugh about being addicted to technology, and that's, you know, I guess that's fine. But the truth is, it actually can cost us something. It really can cost us something. So to close this series, I just want you to consider a few things that it could cost you. And I'll just say I could talk about many, many, many. I just sort of randomly picked 3. But I want to consider just a few things that not setting boundaries, just going hog wild with this with no boundaries whatsoever, might cost us. And the first one is that it can cost us time to do stuff that matters so much more. You know, and I've discovered that a few practices in my life are key for me. That when I'm spending time in prayer daily, and when I'm actively reading books that grow me and challenge me and inspire me, I'm in a different place with God. And I find that when I do those things, not necessarily always together, not necessarily in tandem, although it could be, but when I'm praying regularly and when my spirit and my mind are consistently engaging with God in prayer, and when I'm reading stuff that challenges me and inspires me and gets me thinking, there's something huge that starts happening in my heart. And when I'm not doing those things, the opposite effect happens. I start losing perspective. I start feeling pretty small and petty and afraid and jealous, and I start to worry about all kinds of stuff, and I start to lose passion. And it's interesting because all of a sudden I don't have very many cool ideas. And life starts to feel kind of blah. But when I'm reading a ton and I'm praying consistently, my whole outlook on life changes. Like new ideas start to flow like water. And I have vision for the church. I have vision for my family. I have vision for my kids and my relationship with Jan. I have this sense of optimism that just, grows and my heart comes alive. There's really nothing else like it. But here's the thing that I've noticed. I can throw away so much time browsing nothing. Like if I don't make reading and praying a priority, if I don't carve out space for it, it doesn't happen. And I read a book this last week about a guy that was really struggling deeply with his faith, a guy that's going through a very difficult internal battle. And yet in the midst of it, God met him and broke through. And it was just so powerful, and it opened my eyes and blew into a whole new issue that people wrestle with and blew my mind, and it opened my heart, and it was good. It was really, really good for me. And it would have been easy to miss out on that if I had not carved out time for it. I could have easily, blown that time by messing around on my phone. And I could have easily missed what God had to say to me through that. Now, here's the thing about wasting a ton of time doing nothing on your phone. You actually don't know what you're missing. Because you go, well, it's not really causing me a problem. You have no idea what you're missing. If instead you engaged in something of more value, you have no idea where it might lead. And so many of us, we feel like, you hear people say this all the time, there's just no time in my life. I have no margin. But in reality, most of us have way more margin and way more disposable time than we realize. And what we can do with that time can be absolutely stunning. Now, I'm not saying that you should fill it all with prayer and reading. It could be anything. It could be learning to play guitar. It could be learning another language. It could be, planning a really cool outing with your spouse. It could be painting. It could be photography. It could be anything, and that's the point. But I'm simply saying that by not setting any limits or boundaries, it may be costing you opportunities to do some really cool stuff. And sometimes that cool stuff will lead to other cool stuff. Okay, so there's this cost of wasted time. Another cost is missing the moment that you're in. I mean, how often does trying to take a picture or a video and then worrying about how we're going to post it and what caption we might put there distract us from the actual moment? I mean, imagine that you were to go on a breathtaking hike, just you and a couple of really good friends. And imagine that at the apex of the whole thing, where it is most breathtaking and beautiful, you didn't stop to take a picture. Imagine that you didn't immediately upload it to Instagram. Imagine that all the way down the mountain, you weren't looking to see who liked your scenic pic. Imagine that all the way down the mountain, you just enjoyed the beauty of God's creation and you enjoyed connecting with your friends. Now, we miss moments all the time because we aren't fully there. I mean, we're kind of there, but we're kind of somewhere else. And so, do you ever feel like you're tired and anxious and overwhelmed? I just want to throw out there, maybe trying to do two things at once all the time is a factor. And sometimes it makes sense to just put the thing down and enjoy the moment, to be fully present in the moment. I mean, most of us are missing some beautiful moments, and some of us are missing far more than we realize. And it's taking its toll in ways that we don't even recognize. And I believe that it's affecting us in our soul. Okay, and then one more. And I think this might be the biggest cost of all. It's costing us deeper connection to the people that we love. And we've all seen this. A couple is out at dinner. And it's an opportunity for them, that maybe they don't get all that often because they're missing each other. Like they're like two ships passing in the night. Here they are. They're out at dinner together. And it's an opportunity to share with each other, to learn about each other, to laugh together, to talk about their worries and their fears and their hopes and their dreams. It's an opportunity to flirt. But instead, they're both absolutely glued to this little thing. I mean, she's sitting over there and she's like, and he's sitting over here and he's like, and you're just like, wow, man. And this thing, by the way, it happens with couples at home too. We just sort of default into the path of least resistance. And, we get bored or we get tired or whatever, and out this thing comes. We're like, well, I know what to do with that. So, you imagine a married couple sitting in bed, and they're just sitting in bed, and they're both doing this. Just want to throw out there, maybe they could be doing something else. I wouldn't want to get specific. I'm just saying something else. But instead, they're both doing this. And you go, well, okay, that's a missed opportunity. These things can be powerfully addictive. Okay, when they get in the way of certain things, you go, that's powerfully addictive. I mean, they can be like a siren that calls us to relational death. And yet so often what happens is we feel like we're powerless to resist. I shared at the beginning of this series, and I want to wrap up with this. I shared at the beginning of the series that I had, an issue with this thing in the mornings. That the way that our family schedule works, I get to be with Brooklyn, our 7-year-old, every morning. So the way it works is I help her get ready for school, and then I take her to school and drop her off on my way into work. And so I was at the men's retreat last September and was actually leading other guys in a discussion about our families, about how much our wives and our kids need us to love them and encourage them and listen to them and serve them. And we were just talking about the reality that there is nobody that's going to step in and take our place. Like, if we do a really cruddy job with this, they just miss out. No one fills in. And right in the middle of this discussion, I came to this horrible realization about myself. That I have this opportunity with Brooklyn every morning, like to talk and to laugh and to play and connect, but instead, I mostly let her get ready by herself while I'm on my phone. Instead of interacting with her, I'm just scrolling through ESPN.com. Now, what am I looking for? Why do I do that? What am I hoping to see on ESPN.com? And to be honest, I guess I'm hoping that maybe the Mariners have made a blockbuster deal. That we've acquired, Babe Ruth. I mean, honestly, I'm looking, what am I hoping to see? Why do I do that? What's going on there? I don't even know what it is that I'm hoping for, but I'm on that thing like a crack addict. And so at the men's retreat, something hit me. It just hit me, and I was kind of overwhelmed by it in the moment. I was like, you know what? My little girl will only be a little girl once. And there are dads out there that would kill to have what I have. An hour every morning with that, their little girl. And I have that. And she's growing up fast, and that window is going to close. So why in the world am I wasting all this time? And so I made a decision there. I confessed this, and I made a decision. I set a little boundary. I said, you know what? No more just sitting on my phone all morning. I'm going to be very intentional. That's like a George Bush-ism. I'm going to be intentional. Sorry, you should never do that. Political things never fly, and there's different people in the audience. And so I'm trying to be intentional about making the most of that time. I decided I'm going to talk with her as much as I can. I'm going to laugh with her. I'm going to ask her about school or whatever it is that she seems to care about. Every morning I'm going to tell her as many times as I think of it that she looks pretty. I'm going to tell her that I love her over and over until she gets sick of hearing it. And I'm going to I don't even know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to take my eyes okay, off of the phone, and I'm going to fix them on this little girl while she's still little. Well, I can still do that. Because before long, she's going to be gone. And it's going to happen in a flash. And so in September, I made the decision, and I've never regretted it. I've never sat around going, dang it, I don't know, the stats of the AAA Mariners as well, because I've never regretted it. And there are many other, arenas for me with this that I know I need to be better. I know that. There are tons and tons. But I want to tell you, I'm thinking through this all the time, and I'm adjusting boundaries, and I'm talking about it with my wife. We're talking about it with our kids. We're trying to make new ones. My kids call me out all the time. My wife calls me out even more. But I'm thinking through this all the time, and I'll tell you why. Because there are things that really matter to me, that really matter. And letting this device be my master and stand in the way of that other stuff is not an option. And so I just want to close this entire series by asking you to think about you. I mean, seriously, in what ways is this thing your master? What's it costing you? And what in the world are you going to do about it?